It is 7 o'clock, and I have a quorum, so I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you to this council meeting of the West Jordan City Council. I want to thank staff for working on getting us some substitute air conditioning. We greatly appreciate that. It to me feels about the same as it usually does in here, so great job, whoever was doing that. We have Council Member Jacob, Council Member Worthen, Council Member Green, Council Member Whitelock, Council Member Bloom, Council Member Pat, and Council Member McConaughey here this evening, and several members of staff. And we welcome you if you are here. We will have different times for you to speak to us. If you're here for an agenda item that has a public hearing, you'll be able to speak then. If you're here for public comments, we will have that in just a couple of minutes. We would like to begin with a pledge of allegiance by our city attorney, Mr. Wall.
Oops, there we go. Thank you, Council Chair. Please stand and repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. The first item of business is public comment, and I don't see anyone online tonight, so if you're here, feel free to come to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The members of the City Council strive to create a respectful, orderly, and effective meeting where everyone can feel safe, respected, and comfortable participating in their government. When addressing the council, please provide your full name and city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes. If you're here for a public hearing item, please speak during that time. If you're joining via Zoom, which I see no one, raise your hand in the chat. If you're online with your phone, push *9 and wait to be called on. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council this evening? Come forward.
Push the right button, will you?
Okay, thank you. I'm Anne Marie Barrett. I am the manager of the Bingham Creek Library here in West Jordan City. My city of residence is Draper. And I just wanted to come say thank you so much to our West Jordan City police officers who have been coming all through the month of July and doing story time at our library. The kids love it. It has been super popular. We've had huge numbers of people turning out, and we're really excited because we've got one more coming up in August, on August 10th at 11 o'clock in the morning. We're really excited and would invite anybody who wants to attend to come and enjoy it. We also thank the mayor so much for coming this morning when we had this story time. He was great playing with the kids. They had a wonderful time. We're also wrapping up summer reading, so if you haven't had a chance to sign up yet, please come and join us. And thank you so much. We are so grateful and proud to be part of West Jordan City.
Thank you. I see no one else, so we'll close public comment and we will move to the mayor's report. Mayor Burton.
Thank you. Cookies with the Cops was a lot of fun. Thank you. By the way, it happens at both locations, at the Viridian and the Bingham Creek Library, so choose which location you want to go to. They're both great. And the food trucks will be continuing on Tuesday nights. And remember, the first Tuesday each month is when we have the market come and do their marketing. It's like a little farmer's market there at the same time. Hope to see you there. We've been getting lots of good feedback on there. And I had Polo Burger yesterday. And the 12 Dancing Princesses is concluded. That's what our arts community put together for the play over at the Midvale Center. I had an opportunity to take my kind bride there and enjoy the show. It was a lot of fun. If you saw it, you saw how much fun it was. If you didn't, try and find it with somebody else. I hadn't seen it before, and it was quite enjoyable, and they did a good job with it. That's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Yes, I'd like to ask Chief Maxfield to give you a report on fireworks, as we're at the end of our fireworks season for the year. And then after he reports on that, I have a few items I'd like to discuss.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity to kind of give you a report of the fireworks season this year. I'm happy to report that, again, this year we did not have any major structure fires or suffer any major dollar loss fires. We did have a few, but I'll just recap some of the statistics and then answer any questions you might have. Just as comparison to last year we had 24 total fire calls between the 2nd and the 6th of July. This year we had 39. I'll talk about that in a sec. And then last year, 11 of those calls were actual fires. This year, 14 of those calls actually involved fire. And then last year, 10 of them were fireworks related, and this year, 12 of them were fireworks related. So really, it was very similar to last year. We did have a lot more calls. Part of that, as we looked through the calls, the 4th of July was actually one of our busiest days of the year, and most of that was medical calls this year. So it was kind of interesting. In the 48-hour shift on the 4th and the 5th, our crews ran 68 total calls, which is 20 more than our daily average. So it was a busy time. As far as fireworks, we only had one fire west of 5600 West over this last weekend, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the messaging. Over the 24th, some of you may have seen, we got message boards out on 78th and 90th as you headed west. And as I drove out there, I thought those were much more visible than the little signs that we had put out previously. So I think that's a takeaway, something that we should probably continue into the future. The other big takeaway was that 4 of the calls over the 4th of July and 3 of the calls over the 24th that involved fires were due to improper disposal of fireworks. So again, it was people putting them in garbage cans or dumpsters and not properly soaking them, and then it smoldered and ended up causing a fire. So I think those are a couple of key takeaways that we continue with our messaging. I think it works. I think those message boards helped. And then also really getting the word out that proper disposal of the fireworks makes a big difference. And that truly is one of the areas that I think we can impact the amount of fires that we have. One other thing, I listened on the radio throughout both of those holidays. The 24th of July throughout the valley was much quieter than the 24th of July. And in talking with our communications team, they said they usually get 50 plus complaints for fireworks over the course of the holidays. This year they just got a handful over the 4th and didn't get any over the 24th. So I think all things considered, it was another successful year we got through. So any questions?
Do you have any suggestions on improving next year? I mean, I still had handfuls of neighbors lighting off, or as I'm in that restricted area.
Yeah.
They just don't care. I mean, is there anything?
Yeah, enforcement is extremely difficult. And on the 4th of July, as soon as the fireworks here were done, I headed out west of 56 and was driving through the neighborhoods and stopped and talked with many residents who claimed that they didn't know that they were prohibited in that area. But I think part of it is that it's the education, and I think getting visible notification out there where people can see it. You know, if they're heading home on 78th or 90th, they're bound to see those message boards.
And I didn't see, like last year, we had them at the roundabouts, the signs, and I didn't see them this year.
We did have some of those out, not as many as last year, but yeah.
All right, I'd like to see that improved next year, a little more.
Yep, okay.
There was a report to us that was mistaken that said West Jordan firefighters were injured, but it was West Valley. How are those people doing?
They are doing well. One of them is going to have a little bit longer recovery, but they all of them but one were released from the hospital that night. The other one was going to require some surgeries, I think, and was going to be out a little longer. So, yeah. Okay.
I think you had 2 more that wanted to mention, but
Chief, there's a couple more, Councilmember Jacob and Councilmember McConaughey.
thank you. I just wanted to second the opinion on the smaller yard signs. they proved pretty effective last year. I think the sheer number of them, I think you're right,
Yeah.
we need more. Those seem to be quite effective because there were so many. A lot of people on the west side don't go home on 78th or 90th, they come on Mountain View. Because that's I just realized my mic was not on for that whole thing, but you get what I'm trying to say. I think last year there was more of a push, not just in West Jordan, but in statewide. The
yeah.
governor had a bigger press conference about it, and it got more news coverage than it did this time. This time it's almost like, oh yeah, we know we're in a drought. We've had, they've been saying it for 2 years, or whatever. So I think the message this time just didn't get out quite as much. And,
Yeah.
and as you said, the calls were up, so.
Okay.
Do we, I'm not sure how to word this question, or if it's for you, if it's for legal. Do we, I'm flashing back to a conversation with the city council sometime in the last decade where we had talked about the idea of requiring fireworks vendors to have a map or provide maps showing where they're restricted to those who are purchasing. Is that something we do, something we have done? Is that something we could potentially do?
I would need to follow up with our fire marshal, but I'm fairly certain that they go out and do an inspection whenever those fireworks tents open up. They have to inspect them before they start selling. I'm quite certain that they go over the restrictions and the restricted areas and leave maps with them. And we actually had talked about even leaving copies of maps so that when people buy fireworks, they can have those.
That's kind of where my mind's going. I know though that we went to, I can't remember, Sam's Club or Costco we stopped at, and Sam's Club in Jordan Landing, I don't know for sure, I didn't see like any maps or any notice about that. I wonder if that might be something we could potentially do in the future.
That's a great idea. Places like that, like some of the bigger box stores that sell fireworks as well.
Thank
I
you.
agree, especially the ones that are selling in the restricted areas. I didn't find how that made sense.
Yeah.
They weren't at the stand that I took my
Weren't they?
grandson
Okay.
to. They were not
Not
there.
posted either anywhere?
Not that I saw. I
Okay.
mean, I was
Follow up on
watching
that.
him not really look, so.
Yep.
But I
Okay.
didn't notice it.
That's good.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on calling and reporting the massive amounts of fireworks in my neighborhood either, but I was repeatedly messaged on the 4th of July from people in my neighborhood saying, why is nothing being done? And I can't get through to dispatch. So I was like, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
And so I called the non-emergency number and finally got through. It did take a little while. I got put on hold. It never happened before. And when I got through and I gave them the address, they said, oh no, they're permitted there. And I said, I'm pretty sure, I have it on pretty good authority that they're not.
Yeah.
So VEC didn't get
Yeah.
the right map. So let alone a fireworks vendor, we have VEC telling people, oh no, they're not restricted there.
Yeah. And I don't,
So-
I know VEC has the correct information. I don't know if specific dispatchers maybe.
Right. I don't know where the breakdown in communication was, but somebody there didn't get.
And I will say, in their defense, it is extremely busy that night. I mean,
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
you said, getting through and
Yeah, getting put on hold, I kind of anticipated about that time of night, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Yeah, I figured that would happen, but the not having the right information, that kind of shocked me.
Yeah. Yep, I think in general, it's an uphill battle. It's one that we're going to continue to fight and continue to educate citizens. And I think the more consistent we are in our messaging and each year kind of maintaining those same boundaries, it will help. But it's difficult. Like you said, I heard of some people even at the fair that were messing with signs and things, and it's just really hard to enforce some of that stuff. But yeah, yeah, there you go. Any other questions?
There is a political body that could change the rules if they so chose.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
And it is not us.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Lee.
About the firework restrictions, just thank you for keeping the boundaries simple. As I've looked at neighboring communities and some of their boundaries, it's very, very challenging for VEC and for the residents when the firework restriction boundaries are not along major roads or very jagged along one street's legal and the next isn't. So thank you for being very cognizant in our boundaries about making a clear delineation. I just want to share with you a couple things. We are neck deep in construction next door. We're excited to invite you for a tour at 4:30 on August 10th. August 10th is the next council meeting. If you would like to walk through the building again, you're welcome. We would welcome you to come take a look at things. 4:30, just meet right in front of City Hall if you want to take a tour prior to the council meeting. If there are more than three of you, if there are four or more, we'll split you up into two groups. I invite you to come see. As a remodel, you never know what you're going to find once you open up the walls, and we have had several surprises, including some major ones. We'll point some of those out in the tour. They are causing us some hiccups a little bit in the timing and in the workflow and the change orders. We knew we would need to be flexible in a remodel. We knew that a remodel is a little more complicated than clean construction in terms of what you'll see once you get into it. We've had a few of those things we've needed to work through for structural reasons and fire code reasons primarily. To my left, Ariel, stand up here. I want to introduce you tonight to Ariel Campos. Ariel is our new community outreach manager. Many of you knew Tom Behrens. Ariel replaces Tom. Ariel's role is to be the point of contact and liaison with all community outreach groups, nonprofits, residents wanting to do service, residents wanting to get involved with the community, coordination on community neighborhood meetings, all those kinds of things. I'd like Ariel, if I may take privilege to allow Ariel to introduce himself for a minute to you.
Wow, Corbin, muchísimas gracias por introducirme así. De verdad no sé en dónde empecé, pero empezó todo cuando nací. The mayor told me to do that.
I just don't understand kids these days.
Well, my name is Ariel Campos. You can pronounce it Ariel, Ariel, Ariel. I'm okay with whatever. I don't know how to pronounce my name. I figured out, so everybody just kind of says it the way they say it, and I'm totally fine with it. I'm originally from Virginia. I was born and raised over there. My parents immigrated to Los Angeles when they were 18 years old. Did not like it over there. Then they moved to Virginia. That's where I was born. I have an older brother also, a little brother. We all speak Spanish. Pero in Argentina, I kind of tuned my Spanish. A lot of first generation kids like me learn how to speak Spanish, but not to read or write it. And it's pretty interesting. There's a whole study behind it. But in Argentina, I learned how to read and write a lot better than I did. And I came here around 2013, and I also worked for, I was about here for 10 years now, but I've worked for Salt Lake City in their Parks and Rec, in their outreach program. Went to Title I schools. I loved Salt Lake City. It was so fun communicating with all the different residents there in their mission. You know, every resident matters and their voice should be heard, and that's reflected here in West Jordan. I'm super excited to be here to push that same type of energy. I also did outreach work in Park City for a nonprofit called Eats, which focused on the nutrition diet of underrepresented groups because they are at higher risk. Our Latin communities, Polynesian communities, Island Pacific Islanders, we all run a higher risk. And if we could nab that type of habit in their youth, it's a lot better when you're older. So I love outreach work. I completely get giddy when I'm around people, and the opportunity I have to talk in front of large people or in Zoom, I enjoy it. Y también para nuestros residentes que hablan español por Zoom, si quieren comunicarme conmigo o el mayor, Mayor Byrne, nos pueden comunicar en la oficina del mayor o acá adentro. And I just did a little insert plug there, I'm sorry. Just want to let all our residents know that they can reach us in Spanish or English. And yeah, is there any questions y'all have for me?
Yeah, if you went to Argentina to fine-tune your Spanish, no hablas español, hablas castellano.
Gracias. Yeah, I can speak Castellano is what the Argentines speak. So for a quick example, pollo is regular, pollo is Argentine. So it's Castellano, Español, Inglés, and I also speak Spanglish. So that's for it.
What about Mediterranean?
I was
Mandarin. Come on.
No, Bunje Fat Choi, Prego, Bonjour. I've been to Europe for a little bit. I try to learn as much as I can to at least break the ice with our residents if they're Filipino, Portuguese, or Espanol, or even German. I try. I just love to hear everybody's voice and what they have to say. I find great importance in everybody being listened.
What's your biggest goal that you hope to accomplish that we can help you with?
Oh, ooh, that, yeah. I feel like I just won
So
a
good.
Willy Wonka golden ticket with
I just
that.
want to make sure we are here to support you
Yeah.
and help you as well as the community outreach.
Yeah, any outreach that we can do that can tap into all our residents here at West Jordan, being flyers in different languages, different methods of communication, just not social media, face to face. Many of these communities have never been spoken to. They've never been tapped. So I think it's more friendly to put in front of their face and go the extra mile, because in the political climate that we're in, it's a little difficult. People are scared, and they have merit to be. And so everybody's valid in my eyes, whichever way you lean, but your voice matters. And so any way that we could really make it accessible for everyone, no matter where you're from, to be able to contact us with issues, situations, problems. Let's just make it super easy for them. I guess that's to make it very simple. Let's just make it like ordering a pizza. I don't know. Just make it really easy. And that's what I hope to accomplish, that everybody who feels that they have something to say can be listened to. Yeah. I don't know if there's any more questions.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. Pues, un placer conocerte cara a cara. Estoy bien animado para trabajar contigo, especialmente con este National Night Out Against Crime que tenemos en algunas semanas. Entonces, bienvenido y un placer tenerte aquí. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. And just on the same breath, Councilman, we are having the National Night Out, which is happening August 2nd, which is on a Tuesday, and we're going to go visit communities who have a neighborhood watch installed into their community and go support them on this night out against crime. Again, here's another plug. If you want to make a neighborhood watch, please talk to me and I'll get you set up with all the resources that you need to do that. So, yeah. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome to our city.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along. Next up, we have a public hearing. The first one is to consider ordinance 22-14, amending the 2009 West Jordan City Code, amending Chapter 5, Title 13, adopting Article N, Southwest Quadrant Mixed Use, amending Section 13-5-1, zoning districts, and amending 13-7-B, site plan, citywide applicability. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you. A few weeks back, in a work meeting, I presented the Southwest Quadrant master plan, staff, planning, engineering, particularly economic development, along with the Gardner Company. We've been working on the master planned area that I presented a few weeks back, and that's at this point, it's roughly that area that you see outlined. That's particularly, it's the Merlin Jones family property. This isn't all of the property they own, but this is what we have been focusing on with this master plan effort. And for location, the two big white buildings next to Bacchus Highway, those are the Amazon buildings, and then just north of the red line, that would be the Jones Ranch development that was approved a year or two ago. And so we've worked on this master plan, and we determined that we need a toolbox or a toolkit or a tool to implement this ordinance, because and I'm not going to read all of this. I know this violates every PowerPoint rule and regulation that's ever been created, but this is all from the staff report. And so it's to purposely create a plan development promotes high-tech manufacturing, employment centers, flexible commercial office, and mixed-density residential uses in a master plan development. Now, the mixed-density residential will be primarily to buffer the existing residential, not only of, what's the name of the, Echo Ridge, some of Jones Ranch, some of the other developments, to try to place a buffer component next to them, maybe a little bit higher density residential use, and just not stick a warehouse or a manufacturing use right in their backyard. And so we've tried to be conscious of that to preserve, those people so they have a expectation of some residential use of their property without being these major impacts from commercial and industrial developments. A lot of this preamble is, quite frankly, it's stuff that you've seen. It was, some of it is out of the Wood Ranch development. We used a lot of that because I think, quite frankly, it was good work that the council passed at that time. Now, this one bullet, the very top bullet point, that is in error. The ordinance actually leaves the area that can be rezoned to Southwest Quadrant MU up to the city council. It doesn't have an acreage requirement any longer. That was taken out of the ordinance. And that's because sometimes we know the general area where we want the Southwest Quadrant to be integrated, but the takedown of property may be smaller than 150 acres. But as long as it's consistent and part of the master plan, that is the reason for taking that out. Some of the things, the maximum residential density will be determined in the master development plan by the city council, as similar to other developments. The residential component of the Southwest Quadrant will be much, much smaller. I don't even believe reaching 100 acres with maybe 500 or 600 acres of commercial uses. And then the minimum maximum non-tax exempt property will be allocated because, this is an economic development area, an economic development tool. You want to create the maximum amount of property tax, sales tax, and other taxes available to keep the city afloat. With every application will require an economic development analysis, to determine is this in the best interest of the city, and then the rest of it is integrated, is, phasing plans, development plans, grading plans, based on an approved geotechnical studies. We get farther west, we get into some soils that can be collapsible or they can contribute to the problem. So we need to find that out well in advance of the rezone. We need concept plans for public improvements along with the studies, updating the master plans if they need to be done. And of course, geotechnical studies, stormwater drainage plan, and conceptual lotting plans. Residential uses will require design guidelines. And then the city council, of course, will see the map where this buffer residential will be located. If you want to call it something else, I can't. There probably is a much nicer name than buffer residential, but that's what I'm calling it now, a trail connection so that we have good pedestrian connectivity. I think that's one thing that we have done on the west side, or the council has done on the west side, is preserve those trail corridors. Where on the east side that wasn't thought of 30 or 40, 50 years ago, and it creates kind of a problem getting to the Jordan River Parkway. And then all city required master plans need to be updated by the applicant as determined by staff. And then these are just some of the preamble, this is all basically the same as the PC zone, Wood Ranch. You want to see a purposely planned development, not something that's hodgepodge. It wants to work together and, of course, mitigate any negative impacts on existing residents. Development standards, a master development agreement will be required that will identify residential location and densities. That's all approved by the council. Location of commercial uses, Commercial uses can be anything from retail, office, professional office, that type of thing. What amenities are going to be in the residential areas, infrastructure improvements. Uses, that's really, I don't know, I must have been asleep when I was writing that, but uses allowed in the manufacturing district, but we have a use table. Commercial and office uses allowed and residential uses allowed. Mixed density residential will only be in areas approved by the city council that they feel is appropriate. Medium density housing, up to 7.5 units a acre if it's next to lower density residential that's less than 5 units a acre. So what we're trying to avoid is a single family home and then a big apartment building. Maybe there's a better way to graduate that out, some maybe small lot single family or a multifamily townhome type product, so people don't feel like they're being loomed over with a big apartment building. So it'll be graduated. High density housing, that will be areas opposite side of arterial collector streets and very high density. That will just be allowed on the corner of arterial and collector streets, generally probably around commercial areas, industrial areas, so it's not impacting single family neighborhoods. Design guidelines will be required, and amenities will be installed as approved in the master development plan. And again, this is the map where it will be commercials. There's a wide variety in the use table of commercial uses. Probably anything you can imagine in SC1, SC2, SC3 zones, PO. And so this zone really will have maximum flexibility for the developer to put any type of commercial uses in that zone. And lastly, the manufacturing areas, the hope is that the large portion of this will be developed in manufacturing, industrial uses, high-tech uses that can create good paying jobs, high paying jobs that will really benefit the city. Some of these big buildings carry a massive property tax benefit for the city, and so that is our hope, is to create, as the council has wanted to do this now for many years, create a job center out there and not a residential development with some commercial, rather the other way around, commercial industrial with residential buffer. And that is all I've got. I went through this quickly. Do you have any questions of me at this point?
Councilmember Jacob.
Yeah, the obvious question that just pops out from this map is why not include the area between the Bingham highways, the triangle on the southwest end here?
Right. Right
I'm
there.
reflecting off of.
That's
I
actually,
can't see
that's
that,
actually owned by a different property owner who does not want to participate at this time.
Not according to the map.
Yeah, and that's an older map that I probably should have deleted, so. Okay. That shows what the potential uses
So
could be.
is the applicant not the city of West Jordan?
Yes, it is.
It is the city of West Jordan.
Yeah. So this is not rezoning any property. This is
It's just creating
this
the
is
zone.
creating an ordinance that the property could be rezoned to.
Okay, so we're creating a zone that could be applied
Yes.
anywhere,
Yes.
theoretically.
Yeah.
Okay. Not rezoning the property. I think, okay, that was my next question.
No, there's no property being rezoned. This is basically the tool.
Okay, so the map is superfluous a little bit.
The map was just to try to get in the area we're talking about where we have been working on the master plan development. So.
Could a master plan development not, never mind. I'm good.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Gardner? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. If you are here to speak to this agenda item, please come forward Or if you're online, raise your hand in the chat or push *9 if you're on the phone. Chris, can you see anyone? Mine just went funny. Okay. Thank you. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for deliberation and possible action. I'm going to say one thing first, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Green. In the permitted use table,
Guess what I was going to talk about?
I know, I thought it was funny when I looked over and saw you had it open too, but yours, I think, is at a different area. I would suggest that daycare, both general and limited, be a permitted use in this zone, because what I hear from the legislature is that we need more daycares. And if we're going to put a bunch of work out there and maybe some homes, I don't know why it would have to be a conditional use. So I would say when we do that, let's put it permitted.
So can that change, can you approve the ordinance with that change and then we will just fix it? Or do you want to come back to you?
So when we have a motion, we'll need to include that in our motion. Okay?
And Cindy, we'll take plenty of time for you to do that.
And now we have Councilman Green, who also has his chart up.
So what I would like to address in the permitted use is, we know that based on the design concepts that we've seen a lot of flex space that Gardner has proposed for some of that area. So with that preface, I would like to remove, and I think it would save a lot of staff time, I would like to remove the personal instruction service as a conditional use permit. Somebody's got a karate studio, somebody's got a dance studio, they want to put in one of these flex spaces, who cares? Because those flex spaces are cheap and that they're designed for that kind of a thing. So I'd like to remove the personal instruction
So,
and change.
sorry to interrupt, completely remove it?
No, make it a permitted
Permitted
use.
use, okay.
Make personal instruction a permitted use. I would like to make recreation, entertainment, indoor and outdoor permitted uses, because if somebody wants to bring in another one of those funplex things that's at Jordan Landing, let them bring it in. If somebody wants to bring another, somebody wants to do somebody wants to put a surf pool out there, let them bring it in. The other one that I would like to change to a permitted use is, because we originally wanted this to be a research park, and then we're making research and development a conditional use. Let's make it a permitted use so that businesses can say, we want research to come to this area. And last but not least, why in the heck is restaurant a conditional use? Let's make it a permitted use because we want a dang steakhouse out there. So those are the 4 or 5 that I would like to see make the 4 I'd like to see make permitted use. 5. The personal instruction, the 2 recreation, the research laboratory, and the general restaurant. There's no reason that they have to have conditional uses.
Councilmember Jacob.
So this kind of goes back to more the philosophy rather than the weeds. And that is, could this not be done in a planned community zone? Couldn't we make a development in a planned community zone, or maybe a planned community, what did we call it? West Side Hill Zone, Foothill, what do we call it? The one up north?
This is kind of
The other special zone?
This is kind of the offspring of that never went through.
Didn't the Woods Ranch development end up being its own special
Wood
zone?
Ranch is a hillside, but that's primarily a residential zone. And as most of the planned community zones, there's really not an industrial component in the planned community zone, so.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Bloom.
And I would like to add to that with the pet groomer, preschool, pet hotel. If I'm going out of town, don't want to drive 30 minutes to drop off my dog. If we're trying to keep people centralized, we need to do that. Pet groomer, pet hotel, preschool.
Those 3. I'm marking them so that I can make a consolidated.
And I think you got everything else that I was also saying. All children and animals.
Is there any other input for this?
Chris has got.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. No direct questions or anything like that, but I think it's kind of interesting that what once started off with the idea of preserving this corridor, this area for a specific purpose seems to be taking a much different direction than was originally visioned. Just interesting progression, watching it go from what it was to Research Park to this. That's all.
Yeah,
Just an
Now,
observation.
the research park is still intact on the west side of U-111. So that 600 acres is still there, so.
Vice Chair Green.
Oh. If there's no other comments, I'm going to make the motion. And Cindy, I'm going to do this so that you can capture it in Prime Gov. Go ahead.
What about the gas stations one? Did we get that one? There's no reason why we can't have gas stations over there.
It allows the gas station, it's the gas fuel storage that
Oh,
was
okay, I just wanted to
conditioned.
make sure that
Yeah,
was
I
gas
saw
sales.
that one and
Okay,
I was,
thanks.
I questioned that as I was sitting here and I was like,
I wanted to make
no,
sure we got that
it's the
covered.
gas storage that, okay, so Cindy, to make this easier, I'm going to move to approve ordinance 22-14 as you have on the screen in front of you with the following additions. That daycare general and daycare limited, personal instruction service, pet groomer, pet hotel, preschool. You notice I'm watching you type and finish the word. Recreation and entertainment indoor. Recreation and entertainment outdoor. Research laboratories or research and development center. And restaurant general be permitted uses.
How did you say the restaurant was?
I'll second.
Restaurant general.
Not the fast food?
No, the fast food needs to
not
be
done?
conditional because you always have to deal with that speaker and how to adjust the speaker towards the neighbors.
Okay, yeah.
That's the best, that's the only conditional use that actually works sometimes, so.
Councilmember Worthen.
I seconded.
Okay.
Cindy,
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. So by making those all permitted, does that mean I could have a pet hotel right next door to a preschool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. And also, if the pet hotel is right next to the preschool and a pet does get out and bite the kid, there's a Far Side cartoon that demonstrates this very thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, then there's still recompense there. Anyway, that's still not allowed, even if you can put them next to each other. I'm going to vote in favor of the motion, but I'm not 100% sure I'm going to vote in favor of the application of the zone on the property necessarily. I like creating the zone with the options because I think the more choices we have, the better off we are and the more we can tailor specific needs to specific places. But I'm not 100% sure we're hitting the mark on the exact property on the exact zone. So, but as far as creating the zone goes, I don't have a problem with that. So I'll be in favor of the motion.
Vice Chair Green.
Cindy, I saw that you made the motion live, and I see that in Prime Gov. And
that motion accurately reflects what I gave you, so thank you very much. I'm glad that worked. And so that motion that is in front of us does accurately reflect the motion that I made.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be voting against the motion. I like the idea of having these elements available as a conditional use to start with, but there's so much that, as we look at some of the other developments we've seen, I'm thinking back to the one that we heard last council meeting, how things started back in, what was it, 1995, 1997, and had evolved to where they were just barely finishing now. I would prefer starting with a more restrictive list. That's still possible because it's on the conditional use list, but that way we can have a little bit more control over how things evolve. And then if we see things with time, say, you know what, yeah, we should open it up and just make it permitted. I would prefer to take that approach rather than opening everything up. I'm just a little bit nervous with how much has been added, so I'll be in opposition to this one. Thank you.
I'm just going to make the comment, a conditional use means it's permitted in the zone. It just means that it has to go through the administrative process with the planning commission to determine if there are any detrimental effects from that particular issue. And a lot of these, I will tell you, I will tell you, for 4 years on the planning commission and 4.5 years on the planning commission, personal instruction service is one of the silliest conditional uses we have. That's a karate studio, that's a dance studio, that's an art studio, and what detrimental effects do they have? And then when you look at a restaurant, we want the restaurant. What detrimental effect does it have? And what message does it send to a potential restaurant owner if we're looking at economic development to say, yeah, but you've got to go through a whole nother application and you've got to go to the planning commission and you've got to do X, Y, Z. That slows down and that does not send a message that's very favorable. For the daycare, Councilmember Whitelock gave daycare, what's the detrimental effects of a daycare? You got kids running around. Well, we have elementary schools where kids run around, the conditional use isn't to determine what the traffic flow is into the daycare. The detrimental use is how the detrimental use is detrimental to the property and the neighbors behind it. So I think that we have in the past made a lot of things conditional use because we're afraid of, what's going to happen if we put, I'll give you the perfect example of one the Planning Commission dealt with the other day. They had to have a conditional use for an adult daycare, and I didn't pull this one out of here because I'm still thinking about this particular area, but they had an adult daycare that was sitting in a commercial zone next to a bunch of health facilities that they had to do a conditional use to have an adult daycare next to a doctor's office. Well, that's where I'd want the adult daycare. And what's the detrimental effect of having an adult daycare next to a doctor's office? There isn't one. We've got to become more sophisticated and realize that sometimes when we put up the C on the use table, it scares people away from wanting to build something in a zone, and that's why I proposed this.
All right, seeing no other comments, Ms. Quick, I would ask you to do a vote, please.
Thank you. Councilmember McConaughey.
Nay.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Wordlin.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-7.
Next on the
6-1, sorry.
Next on the agenda is to consider ordinance 22-33, amending the 2009 West Jordan City Code Section 12-4-5, material enhancement, adding language that legal non-conforming signs can be relocated and reconstructed as a result of road widening only if the relocated, reconstructed sign meets all provisions of section 12-4-5 of the West Jordan City Code. I believe this is coming up because of a project to widen 9,000 South. Mr. Gardner.
Yes, you are correct, and Utah Department of Transportation is widening 90th South. I believe they're adding one lane and a little bit. It's all going to affect the south side of 90th South from the river to Redwood Road at this point. There, as UDOT started to acquire property, they realized that they would be taking out many, many signs that have been there for a long time now, and businesses have come to rely upon these signs. They called the city and we said, well, they're all non-conforming, so once they are taken down, you have to put in the sign that is currently in the code. Many of them ask if I would at least approach the council to see if there was a provision to allow a non-conforming sign to be reconstructed or just removed to another location. So they could keep at least that sign or a similar sign that would do advertising for their business. Now, there's several along the corridor. That's probably best for me to show those first. These are a few of them. You can see the one at the very top is, it's over by where Anderson Lumber used to be, Key Bank. There's a strip mall in the back, and you can see there's close to 20 different businesses that rely upon that sign for advertising. It's all of this area along this portion, along the south side of 90 South is in a planned community PC zone, and the only signs allowed are a 6-foot and a 4-foot monument sign. So to get that many individual advertising signs on a 6x13 a monument sign, they actually had a couple of sign companies propose it. The advertising became very small. The property owner who lives out of state was really concerned about this. In fact, he was, concern is probably a gentle term when I talked to him. And so along with UDOT and these other, you can see the Legacy Shooting Center, that sign will have to come down, be replaced with a monument sign, and Walker Edison, or what I refer to as the old River Point Plaza or Shopco Albertson sign. That one, I don't know if there's a lot of hope for that one to be relocated. Maybe there's somewhere else on their site they can do it, but it's right on Flower Patch at this point, and the roadway will be right on Flower Patch here in the near future. So without delaying, what this would do is add a new section 12.4.5, or actually 5, excuse me. And what it would do is say any sign that is legal non-conforming by this title can be replaced by a new sign, or materials that are of higher quality. And then what it says that you can't just pick up the old Shopco sign and move it. It has to be upgraded a little bit so it looks better. Some of these signs are becoming a little tired. I believe that Shopco sign has to be pushing 30 years old. But the overall height, sign area, and width of the sign cannot be increased. New materials are applied. They can't make it more thick. They can't make the sign bigger, is what this is saying. And new architectural features shall be added to enhance appearance of the existing sign. And all of this needs to be approved by the Design Review Committee and the Planning Commission. That is the gist of the ordinance. Quite frankly, this is the way that some cities get rid of pole signs. They widen the road, say, sorry, you can't have another pole sign, you have to come up and meet our current planned community zone. I just want to throw that out there. This was solely at the request of some of the business community to see if the city council was willing to, what they feel is something been thrust upon them that's fairly unjust. UDOT's taking property, taking basically all of the landscaping out, and in some cases taking parking stalls out. And so this may be one way to soften a blow, but like I said, this is also a way that cities get rid of pole signs if they don't want them any longer. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Gardner? Councilmember Jacob.
That was by 100th of a second. Wow, that was close. Who decides what is of a higher quality? So new materials should be of a higher quality and durability. Is that a subjective standard that somebody evaluates, or is that an objective standard that exists somewhere? What is higher quality?
I think that it would be a combination of staff, the design review committee, and the planning commission. What would be higher quality than a stucco base on a sign? You know, maybe there's some tile. A good example is the sign right across over at Vasa that was used, done using a similar ordinance. They did some nice brickwork, tile, to improve the appearance of the sign. So it'd really be the design review committee and the planning commission.
Okay. Can you back up to the wordage? Because I thought I had another question. Now I can't remember what it was. No, I'll just leave that there and save comments for afterwards.
Councilmember McConaughey.
So I guess my question is this how much of 90 South are we looking at? Are we looking at like 13th West to Redwood Road? Like all three of these examples fall right there. Is there much more that goes
Generally,
further
it's
west?
from 1300 to Redwood Road because that's where the PC zone jets out on that portion of the southern portion only. In fact, the interesting thing is it used to be a 7-Eleven. I think now it's a Subway and a haircut place.
Fantastic Sam's or something.
Yeah, they don't fall within this problem. They can erect a new pole sign because they're in a SC2 zone.
So
That little corner.
I guess my question is, if we're looking at a smaller area, are there other tools at our disposal besides modification of code? For example, a redevelopment area, do we have funds that might be accessible to look at helping address the situation? I'm not sure how much I really want to say in this forum, but that's kind of where my mind's going.
I don't think funding is necessarily the issue because UDOT, you and I are paying for it with the taking of the sign. The issue is the non-conformity.
Well, and that's what I mean, like if the sign's being taken.
Yeah, the non-conformity does not allow, a non-conforming use cannot be reconstructed under our code, so.
That's why I'm wondering if we might be able to help to use some of those funds to help reconstruct something that would be conforming rather than changing our code to allow something to perpetuate another 30 years.
That's a fair
Is
argument.
that an option, I guess?
Yeah,
my
not
question.
approving it certainly is an option, you know, and then the money that they get for the taking would go towards the monument signs that are allowed in the PC zone.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gardner, but if it only involves the south side, does that mean that the Home Depot sign and the Kmart sign could have a new logo plastered on it that says something in the future could, and those will still be there?
Oh, that's all in an SC2 zone where pole signs are permitted, so.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, I'll open the public hearing. If you're here to speak on this item, please come forward. If you're online.
Nobody online.
Thank you. I see none, so. What are you pointing at? Okay, I will.
There is, Councilmember Worthen's pointing out that on the slide, the ordinance number is 2230. On the ordinance that we have in front of us, it's 2233.
Okay, while you're looking at that, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for deliberation and a possible motion. Ms. Quick, do you have an answer for what number this ordinance should be?
The correct ordinance is 2233.
Okay. So we need to correct our screen, perhaps. All right, Vice Chair Green.
I'll make a comment before I make a motion. While I understand where Councilmember McConaughey is going, I'm going to tell you, and in fact, Mr. Langford and I had this conversation earlier tonight. The corner of 90th South and 13th, at the corner of 90th South and Redwood Road that is a PC zone is going to haunt us forever because it was a PC zone. It should have been zoned SC2 in the first place, and we should have called it good. But because it was part of a PC zone with the apartments behind it and the Foxbridge stuff and the offices and everything behind it, we're stuck with a PC zone, even though it's highly commercial on the Redwood Road area, or on the 90th South area. It doesn't, and here's the ironic thing. The sign that is in front of the old Anderson Lumber, whatever they are, that US Lumber vinyl store, they're in an SC2 zone. They get to keep the sign. When UDOT widens the road, that sign goes right back up. You go 35 feet, you go 150 feet down the road to that little strip mall by Key Bank, and now all their signs have to come down. And by ordinance, they can't go back up, and the biggest sign that we can put up is a 6 by 4 foot monument sign that you'd be lucky to be able to read the name of the business. It'd be 2 inches high. And then I believe what we'd actually be relegated to is all the businesses trying to attract businesses. They just put out all the temporary signs and hope that we would hope we wouldn't enforce the temporary sign ordinance, and it would look worse. And so then you've got that stretch that's the PC zone from there down to Asian City, but the subway's an SC2 zone, and they can do whatever they want with their sign. And then everybody else on the south side or on the north side of the street can do whatever they want with their sign. I think it doesn't make sense if we were looking at making pole signs obsolete in the city and figuring out how to wipe out pole signs completely across the city that included the whole stretch of 90th South from 13th West all the way past Smith's and everything in between. If we were looking at eliminating pole signs, I would agree with you. But where we're only talking about 3 or 4 signs in a small area, and it really targets a couple of businesses and I'm going to say it's a matter of fairness or equity. I think we need to approve the ordinance, and the only way to do it is either one, pass the non-conforming sign ordinance that we have in front of us, or we amend the PC zone. Now, I don't think there's anybody that's going to want to amend the PC zone so that we can put pole signs in the PC zone, because PC zone's primarily residential, and that would cause more problems than it's worth. So I'm good with this. I'm good with this rewriting code for that stretch of street.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate Councilmember Green's additions and clarifications there. So I guess my follow-up questions, I don't know who to address this to. Is this really the only area of the city where we could see applicability of this? In my mind, I'm wanting to try and figure out, okay, is there a way that we can tailor in? Because yeah, for this specific area, right between 13th and Redwood on that south side of the road, I don't think I have a problem with that. But what happens if there's something over on 5600 West somewhere? Or what if there's something on 70 South or on Redwood Road or somewhere else in the city? Are we going to get bit by that? So I'm wondering, is there a way that rather than saying this has broad citywide applicability, it just exists for this small area? I mean, I guess we could always pass this and then rescind it 2 years down the road, but is there a cleaner way to make sure that this is very targeted to just this one place?
Well, if you read, yeah, my answer to that would be that I think this is very narrowly tailored because it's non-conforming signs, which we don't have a lot of, can be relocated as a result of road widening. Now, there could be some road widening projects, I suppose, in the future along 7800 South and 70th, so it could be applicable to other areas of the city, yes. But it's only a result if the sign is non-conforming, and two, if the road is widened. So,
Would creation of carve-outs for like a UTA pullout for a bus, would that constitute a road widening?
no.
See no further comments, I'd call for a motion.
I will move to approve ordinance 22-33 as listed on the screen.
I'll second. Is there any discussion to the motion?
And Cindy, I will just note for the record that the active motion on the screen that you just posted is an accurate version of my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember Whitelock. Cindy, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
I can't do it. Okay. Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes?
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda are consent items to approve meeting minutes for the July 13th meeting, both meetings, and to approve resolution of number 22-032, authorizing execution of the Salt Lake Area Gang Project Memorandum of Understanding. Councilmember McConaughey.
Move to approve all consent items.
Cindy, question on my agenda and what you've got on the screen are different. It's
Is that
showing
better?
approved meeting minutes, April 6th, May 18th, and June 22nd. That's not what was in our packet, nor is it on our agenda.
That's the last
Oh,
one.
no.
That's the consent calendar from last time.
Is it on the PowerPoint you're referring to, or
Yeah,
on the?
it's
Okay.
what's on
The PowerPoint is incorrect.
that screen.
Cassidy
Okay.
is fixing it. It's for
Okay.
July 13th, the Committee of the Whole, and July 13th, their regular council meeting.
Okay, Councilmember McConaughey, does your motion still stand?
Yeah, I was looking at the agenda itself, not the PowerPoint, so we're good.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Bloom. Is there any discussion to this motion? Vice Chair Green.
I'm just gonna take a minute so that, make sure that, Ms. Quick has got plenty of time to do what she needs to do for it to get the motion live and to do that correctly in PrimeGov.
Thank you. I'm going to open the vote. I show that the motion was to approve all consent items as listed. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Councilmember McConaughey made the motion and Councilmember Bloom made the second.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we need a voice vote.
Thank you. We have Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey, Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next up, our city council remarks. First up is Mr. Anderson, council office report.
Thank you. You heard some changes with the audio. I just wanted to give you an update that we had GenCom brought out an audio engineer to set up our Bosch audio system with YouTube and Zoom with PrimeGov. So they're all integrated now, and we should have consistent volume. We'll still tweak it a little bit, but we should have consistent volume on all the platforms. PrimeGov is working well. We already have packets for the August 9th Truth and Taxation hearing, and packets are beginning to come in for August 10th. They'll be due tomorrow, and we're already starting to receive items for August 24th. So I think as we get this filled in, you will have a good repository of items for future council meetings. I wanted to remind the council I sent out a calendar invite for August 9th to do an official council photograph. We were going to do that in April, and due to some COVID issues, we rescheduled that, or we postponed it, and now we're rescheduling it for Monday just before we have the Truth and Taxation so that we can do a group photo and individual official portraits for the council as it's constituted. It's on a Tuesday, August 9th, just before Truth and Taxation. We have a professional photographer who has volunteered his services to take those photos that is listed in council rules. The general plan is wrapping up. Appreciate the effort the council had tonight in identifying the moderate income housing plan and those goals. And we will get that put into the general plan project. That'll go back over to community development for a final review. Currently, we have reserved Bingham Creek and Viridian Library for public outreach that you had asked for, a town hall open house. I've sent an invite to those. We will get that word out through all of our social media resources. That date will be August 23rd at 6 to 8 on August 23rd at Viridian.
I think it might be at Bingham Creek.
Bingham Creek on the 23rd. Thank you. Glad to have the library manager here. And then August 31st will be at Viridian. And then on the 2022 annual calendar for the City Council, you had listed a combined meeting on August 30th with the Planning Commission. That'll be in here. And that discussion topic will be going over the general plan. So it'll all work out very well. Once we have those public outreaches in August, the plan is to have it come before the Planning Commission. We will have the General Plan Committee leadership and their members attend Planning Commission to present that to the Planning Commissioners September, October timeframe. And then that document will come to you November, December timeframe. So things are moving very well, and we're very busy and happy in the council office. Thank you.
Thank you. City council reports and remarks. Is there any council member Worthen, then council member Jacob, then council member Pack?
I just wanted to thank Anne Marie for coming. She's a regular, and we don't have a lot of regulars that come. And I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your enthusiasm and telling us about the different programs. And I'm just going to make a quick little book recommendation. You kind of inspired me when you came up and talked about that. I've been recently reading Atomic Habits. If any of you have or haven't heard of it, it's actually, have you read that? It's a very good book, right? I mean, and it's really about, how we're creatures of habits and how we develop our habits and whatnot. So if you're looking for a good self-improvement book, it's tops. So in honor of Anne Marie being here, I wanted to recommend that book.
I just wanted to welcome our new employee or community outreach manager, Ariel, and let you know that wenn es auch Deutschsprechende gibt, die nicht Englisch sprechen können, Sie können auch anrufen und mit mir sprechen und ich werde übersetzen für Sie.
That's your German.
Is that Dutch?
Councilmember Pack?
Oh, merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Councilmember McConaughey said I had to do that, so it's all inclusive of languages here tonight, right? I just wanted to give a report on the first stab at the fee waiver. So an update on the proposed a street name change that we have adjacent to Copper Hills High School. So we're trying to figure out exactly what needs to be in the form, what shouldn't be in the form. Right at the end of the form, there's a statement that says that the applicant needs to certify that he or she is the owner of the property that wants to be considered for the fee waiver, which that doesn't necessarily apply to all entities, especially in this case. And so in conjunction with that, and a lot of other emails that I've been receiving, emails and phone calls, I've had some great conversation with Mr. Lee and Mayor Burton and Office Director Anderson. So I'm grateful for our staff and all of their time and returning phone calls and emails. I've allocated a few hours to driving around the city this last week with various residents who have emailed me with concerns that they have or desires that they wish would be different. And of course, we all have so many varied interests and desires, it's impossible to please all the people all the time, while also certainly not wanting anything to land on deaf ears, not wanting to take action on anything. So I've mentioned to all residents to please email specific pictures and addresses of areas so that it doesn't degrade in terms of communication, playing the telephone game from resident to council member to city staff and back the other way. So I'm grateful for residents who give input so that we can minimize blind spots and be more informed to know how we can best serve the community. Also, in conjunction with Mayor Burton, I was able to attend the 12 Dancing Princesses, the production that the West Jordan Theater Arts put on. Wonderful to see community arts live and well, and I'm grateful that our band performed for the flag ceremony incident to the new flagpoles that we have at the rodeo arena. So again, a petition that we continue to be serious about finding a venue for these great organizations to be able to perform. I like to just park once for dinner and a show. So I drove to Midvale, had dinner outside our city, saw a show outside our city where our organization is paying rent to another city. So it would be that would be nice if we can continue working toward making that a reality. My personal reporting would be that I've been networking with various members of the county council, and certainly not trying to speak for them, but let's just say that they are amenable to increasing support for us financially, provided we actually take the steps and show good faith in actually moving forward. Personal opinion is we tend to beat our revenue projections on sales tax quarter after quarter. So I believe that that gap in funding could be closed, because if we defer any longer, it's only going to get wider. Lastly, it's interesting to note that with the budget, of course, citywide, we've got a 6% COLA. Obviously, inflation is very significant, while also noting that I'm glad that we as a council have adopted the policy, basically, of ensuring that we don't kick the can down the road. And understandably, with inflation, there's tax nuances, there's fees that need to be raised, but I'm glad that we are addressing those proactively to have increases that tend to mirror inflationary cost index, as opposed to having huge increases. The third facet to that I mentioned, I know it's not necessarily a popular one, but we are probably, as a council, the lowest paid city staff. And we're the only ones that aren't allocating COLAs or raises. So certainly not trying to advocate for a raise for myself, but again, I would mention that we might want to address this for future councils. Any action that we take could be postponed until a new election cycle. That's just my report, as I have talked to individuals and other entities on how they take care of these various issues. The other committees tend to be going well. I'm communicating well with Mayor Burton regarding the mayoral appointment committee. Seems like we're interfacing more and more for that committee. And Healthy West Jordan is striving to get even healthier in terms of a committee and for the benefit of our residents. So that's my report tonight, Chair. Thank you for your time.
Vice Chair Green.
My report is that the Chamber West, which one was it on Thursday? Board of Governors. I can't remember. I sit on two boards with the Chamber West because of the council, but I believe it was the Board of Governors on Thursday. Is that right, Mayor? You're nodding yes. It was interesting. This month's issue was dealing with police, and our own Chief Valentine presented the major part of the presentation for the chamber on issues that and how we've approached and done some things in West Jordan City. It was very enlightening, even though I know what goes on in the city. And we may want to just have Chief Valentine come back and do that. Wallentine, sorry, why did I say Valentine? Wallentine. We may want to have Chief Wallentine, sorry, Ken, come and spend 15 or 20 minutes like he did with the chamber and give that presentation to us. It dealt with some gang issues and a couple other things, super enlightening. And so that just may be something that we want to look at in the near future. And my apologies to the chief of police. I don't know what I was thinking, so never mind.
You're thinking February, apparently. Councilmember Bloom.
Oh, I just wanted to make it really quick that that Truth and Taxation for the Board of Education is August 2nd. So with everything going on, being there and understanding what their needs are is vital. Also, shout out to the librarian, obviously a huge fan. My kids are, and I don't know if my John Grisham book that I just read counts as a book recommendation. But I appreciate the staff tremendously for everything they do, for the questions that we have that they're answered, for the calls from the mayor. Thank you for everything for that and help clarifying our questions before we come to council. It just makes the decision easier. And I know I don't talk too much during council because I like doing all my homework beforehand, but thank you, staff, for everything that you do in answering my questions.
All right. I too got to attend the Dancing Princesses, and just a fun note, the main princess, January, is my neighbor and my friend, and her two daughters were also in the production. They're all glad it's over. They had fun, but they're glad it's done. Couple of items of housekeeping. If I do like to have a special recognition, and you notice we didn't have one tonight. If you know someone, just a reminder, if you know someone in the city, a resident or a business that has done something exemplary, we'd love to recognize them in our meeting. So please let leadership or Alan know. Then we received an email on the 21st from Mr. Wall having to do with Scrivener's errors that he spoke to us about. He's proposing a little change. So if you haven't taken the opportunity to read that and give him input, please do so, because it's going to be coming back to us. Is that all I have? Yes. So the next,
Can I make one more comment? I just want to thank Cindy. She is trying to learn PrimeGov and do a lot of this stuff on the fly. And if you notice, I kind of was pausing and waiting for her to type just because of that, because things will get faster as the learning curve goes up. But so thanks to everybody, to your patience for helping Cindy out. What it does, if you don't know about PrimeGov, is that when she gets all of that stuff entered in, when she's done, it helps generate the shell of the minutes. And so the more that she can stay on top of it, the more time we save. So thanks everybody to your patience for a little bit of added time to go through those motions.
so on the agenda after the adjourn, you will see our new business and our unfinished business items. Our unfinished business items, I want to note, are growing. So there is that. And then I would look for a motion to go into closed session because we have a closed meeting agenda item. And just for informational purposes, When we go into closed session, if that motion passes, we'll ask that everyone leave except for those that are involved in that meeting. Because it's closed session, no, you can wait till until the motion's made. Vice Chair Green.
I move that the West Jordan City Council temporary recess the city council meeting to convene a closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual as provided by Utah Code annotated section 52-4-205.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Second with comment.
Okay.
So my comment would be, I would really appreciate if the mayor's office could work with the state legislature to try and fix this thing where we have to come back after who knows how long, and the extra increase it puts, the extra workload it puts on staff to have to sit around and wait for something that's procedural and stupid. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Cindy? Are you ready?
We had a technical issue. Hang
Okay.
on one moment.
You're fine.
I closed my whole thing. So I need to go back in very quickly. I apologize. And start this up again. Hopefully we're still live. It appears that we are. And I just need to make the motion. So thank you for your patience while I get back up.
Cindy, that motion was directly off of this slide.
Okay. Motion. Whoa. Oh. It did it like 3 times. Okay. Convene in a closed session. Okay. So, I believe I can save that, the motion. I believe I can do this and vote. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, you know what? We're just going to wing it. Okay. I'm going to start with Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthman.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey. Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 7-0.
Hey, Anne-Marie, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Is this yours?
Recording stopped.
For real, when we work with the state, can we ask that they fix that? What was that? I'm not sure which one it was, but the one that made us, like, we can no longer adjourn from a closed session, so staff has to stay, has to wait. Fire.
More better?
There you go. Do we want to do anything as we? That's the question.
If we can add up, just like here's how long the closed sessions last, and then average staff rate saying, your bill is actually costing us additional taxpayer money here, here, and here. They can still find what they need in the minutes because it shows how long we were there, who was present. But we're physically requiring the reconvening